I'm joined now by Dan Thomas. Thanks for joining the show, Dan.
Hello, how are we doing?
Good, not too bad. Nice of you to join us. You were a bit late for the show there today.
I got back into my research and I was enjoying myself.
The reason Dan has been researching is because he's doing today's discussion segment, and we're talking about crypto in gaming, which Dan is going to teach you all about. So when you leave today, you're going to be an official Bitcoin investor, and you'll be able to make millions of pounds. Is that what we're doing here, Dan?
Cast iron guarantee. We're going to come out of this today. Everyone's going to be an expert, guaranteed riches for all. No, I'm lying. Crypto blockchain. We know this is a growing. Obviously, everybody's heard of this in all sorts of contexts. It's a growing, significant sort of sector of the games space as well. And as we like to do, throw ourselves in at the deep end. If we want to learn something, we say, let's talk about it on the show. So, yeah, I'm not an expert, but I've done some research. And let's see how we get on at trying to explain it, shall we?
Yeah. So why don't you start by telling the folks at home who maybe don't know. Maybe they've been living under a rock. Maybe they've not got a computer. I mean, watching this show is impressive for that one. But if you've never heard of crypto before, what is crypto?
What is this thing? If I'd be interested, if you are in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5, just let us know what your confidence or expertise in this subject matter is, just so I know how how bad I'm going to look with my explanation of these things. So, what is crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin, all of these things? So, probably a simple way to start this is if we go back to where it all came from, which is 2008, the banking crisis, the distrust that emerged in the banking sector, and some clever people thought, do we really need banks to facilitate all of these financial transactions? Like, if I want to send you money, for example, we cannot do this without a bank being involved, and we have to just trust their systems, their processes. And I say, I was sending Adam thousands of pounds, which I regularly do, we've got no visibility and no control over that. So some people thought, well, maybe there's a better way, and they came up with this stack of technologies to decentralize the transfer of wealth or value between two parties. This technology is blockchain. And what is blockchain? Blockchain is essentially, it's a decentralized audit trail of transactions. So if you think about a spreadsheet that just says this person sent that person this amount of money, and the unique thing about blockchain as opposed to a audit trail between banks or the existing transfer of cash systems that we have is, we mentioned, this decentralized. So essentially everybody has visibility of this audit trail, and it's immutable. Nobody can change it. So once a transaction is in there, the ledger is publicly shared. Everybody can see the sequence of events. So it's very reliable, and no one entity necessarily owns it. So that is blockchain. Is in hypothetically, technology obviously is far more intricate than that. But that's the theory of this. How am I doing so far, Adam? You're an expert in this.
I mean, I own some cryptocurrency, so I guess that puts me above a 1.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment of the cryptocurrency, the founding principles behind it. And like you said, there's been a kind of a long and storied road since then, with various cryptocurrencies competing, because they all have slightly different variations or ideas on the theme of how this currency. They all agree in principle that it should be a separate currency to existing fiat currencies. But they all have a slightly different take on it, don't they, in terms of how they generate the currency, how they share the currency, how they decide what the definitive version of the ledger is. And that's why you get Bitcoin, you get like 100 other Bitcoins as well.
Yeah, so and that's the key thing to, I guess, for everybody to understand, is blockchain is the technology that this whole idea is built on. A cryptocurrency uses this idea of a shared ledger. And a cryptocurrency basically says, there are X amount of this currency that we're making up, and the blockchain facilitates the fact that it is limited to that amount, and who owns what percentage or what values of that currency. So we use blockchain to enable a cryptocurrency, and yeah, Bitcoin was kind of the first, and is probably the baseline of which all other cryptocurrencies are based. But we also have what we call altcoins, so different currencies, because anybody can create, in theory, anybody can create their own currency to run on blockchain. But the key thing is that blockchain is not cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency uses blockchain, and blockchain is just basically this shared immutable ledger that everybody can see and is auditable and not owned by any one party, which is how we can start to introduce it into the world of games. But yeah, the most common use of this is for currency, and we are now, the banking crisis said kind of 2008, that was when this came about. We're now rapidly approaching 15 years on from that, so yeah, this has matured, and things one of the questions a lot of people will ask is, well, how do I get real money out of it? Well, that is a problem that is solved, and if you choose to, you can put money in, you can buy your stake of your cryptocurrency, but you can equally, if you have some cryptocurrency, you can get the local monetary value out of it as well very easily. More and more businesses are accepting cryptocurrency as a means of payment, and I think Tesla is probably a famous example. You can go and buy a car using just your cryptocurrency. So it's a fairly, in the grand scheme of this digital landscape in which we operate, it's now becoming it's far from mature, but it's a proven platform and technology set. Even actually, I think in New Zealand, you can actually you can opt to get your salary paid in cryptocurrency.
Oh, wow.
It's quite interesting.
Is that Bitcoin or like special?
I think
New
it's
Zealand
Bitcoin.
money?
No, I think it is. I think it's Bitcoin, and yeah, some people do. And because of this maturity and the ability to get your money in and out of it easily, you can get paid in Bitcoin and immediately just take your what you need to pay your rent, buy your food shopping, whatever it is. You can just take that slice out. But the long-term aim is that this is the way ultimately that all financial transactions could end up being, and that's what a lot of people are kind of making their bets on, is that the logical conclusion 10, 20, however many years in the future is that we won't rely on this arbitrary money and coins and notes and banks. We will use this more decentralized approach. So yeah, that's why people might want to do it.
So one of the things I bet people in the chat will be thinking about, because it's been more of a talking point recently, is NFTs, like non-fungible tokens, and they've probably seen some of their favourite artists or musicians or visual artists getting into the world of NFTs. Do you have any insight for the folks at home about what NFTs are and how they relate?
So yeah, much like you, mere hours ago, I was like, what the hell are these NFTs? So we've let's say, hypothetically, we're now understanding what blockchain is, and we understand what a currency is. So an NFT is kind of like they're called currency, but the technical definition is a token. So a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin token. It's not a coin, it's a token. And an NFT is also a token, much the same way as a coin is. The only difference is this non-fungible bit means that each token can be unique. So, for example, let's relate this to the real world. If I had a pound coin and Adam had a pound coin, we both effectively have the same thing, and we can both exchange that for the same, we can both go to Greg's and buy the same £1 sausage roll, and there is no distinction between my pound coin and Adam's pound coin. And that's how a cryptocurrency could also work. The coin is the token, and that's how that's represented. The NFT implementation of this is my pound coin, for example, has my face on it, Adam's pound coin has his face on it, and mine is the only pound coin with my face on it. It is unique, and because of that uniqueness, the value, mine has my face on it, so it's infinitely more valuable than Adam's with his face on it. So this is the blockchain being used to create these tokens, and each token is unique, and then this is how we are able to assure that an NFT item, a piece of artwork, it is the only one in existence, which is why it's not exactly a PDF that anyone can download a copy of the PDF. It is the original PDF, or it's the original source file, and the blockchain is what assures that fact. So these are NFTs, and this is why there's value attributed to them. Yeah,
and there's a lot of interest in it, I guess, in terms of like it's collectible, is because of the uniqueness, I guess. So when an artist releases something, or at least there's perceived to be, and this is all about perceived value ultimately, there's perceived to be value in the fact that this is in some way unique and attributable. Kind of like getting an autograph signed or something. It's a unique proposition.
Exactly, and this is where we start to apply the logic into games, is kind of what makes blockchain and crypto relevant is the fact that we can assure ownership. We have the ledger to say this item is definitely owned by that person. It's no longer owned by the originating entity. We have rarity, so the items can be unique, but they can also be clustered by, hair color or length of hair, type of shoes, all these different things that make it unique. But we know that 80% of these items have the same shoes, but only 20% have these special shoes. So we can use the blockchain to assure the rarity of an item. So how unique is this item? Which again is a useful kind of gaming mechanic. And yeah, the uniqueness of it, we know that this is an extremely rare version of this token, and it is the only one of that type that is in existence. And these are things that we start to lean on in games, and there's a whole spectrum of how you can interpret these, and there's a whole ecosystem of blockchain powered games, and it ranges from as simple as they're kind of at its simplest, a platform to spend your cryptocurrencies on. In some instances, you just pay to play, like you would do at an arcade or a gambling site, for example. But then you can also, so that's just essentially becoming a platform to transfer cryptocurrency around. And that's interesting, and you have the unique items and things like that, and there's some hugely successful examples of this. CryptoKitties being probably the biggest example that at its peak was kind of blocking up the Ethereum cryptocurrency. But you can also take the concepts behind it and start to introduce this into game mechanics, which is where it perhaps gets a little bit more interesting from a core game perspective. So what can we layer into an existing game that leverages this uniqueness and leverages this rarity, and the fact that this weapon used in this game has been handed on from character to character and was involved in this big battle or this memorable scene or this big community event, and it still exists 2, 3, 4 years later. There's an increased value of the item, and perhaps there's some gamification elements involved in it as well. So that's I guess the spectrum of how we're using blockchain and how it ties in with cryptocurrency, and it's a wild environment. Certainly a lot going on.
I thought you were going to say Wild Wild West. Shout out to my man Will Smith. What are some examples then of games? You mentioned CryptoKitties, but what are there other games out there that are like at the pinnacle of this crypto or the spearhead of this movement? Yeah,
it is somewhat familiar to kind of like the app gold rush days. There is just more and more and more. There's so many varieties of both currency, blockchain technologies, and then the apps. You also have ecosystems around it, so it's an exponentially growing amount of games. Mobile is obviously an easy candidate for people to make this, like CryptoKitties is the example there. But there are some sort of PC games and things as well. There's a game called The Sandbox that is gaining. It's pretty popular, and this is an open world kind of, I guess. I'm dumbing it down too much, but I've only kind of briefly looked at this, but it's kind of like a Minecraft-esque voxel world, but there is a crafting element to it, and the players can craft unique items using these voxel editors. So you can make an item, you can have it in the world, and then that item, because you've created it and you've put it on the blockchain, it starts to gain value, and then you can trade it, or you can modify it, share it with other people and things like that. So yeah, The Sandbox is one example. Another is Six Dragons, which is another open world RPG, which is very much claims to be sort of shaped by the players, and again, because the value is in this kind of use of blockchain, the game is evolving based off of the player behaviors and the items they create and craft, and so that's another one. Axie Infinity is another one that I came across, which is I think it's a sort of quite a narrative strong game, which is interesting. And going back to Six Dragons, actually, what's interesting with that is it's built on top of a blockchain game creation platform. So kind of thinking like Roblox is a a game creation platform where it's actually an ecosystem where players can make games and other players can play those games, and those games can be monetized. This is the same thing, but using blockchain technologies. So that's quite interesting as well. We're getting new ecosystems on top of ecosystems and different games using different currencies. So yes, there's a lot going on, and quick search on mobile or desktop, and web based as well. There's a lot going on. I did do some quick research, and I've not seen any kind of like household name game studios that have done anything significant yet. I know Ubisoft were doing some kind of startup incubators type experiments and looking at blockchain technologies, and there are a few claims to be this is a AAA quality blockchain game, but it's by new studios and new investments. So I've not seen the next Call of Duty or whatever, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time that will come. There will be a first mover imminently if it's not already happening and I've just missed it.
Call of Bitcoin coming soon. A lot of people out there will maybe be seeing some of the pushback on Twitter around NFTs specifically in terms of their environmental impact. I mean, if you see a game that is using blockchain, should you be worried about your impact on the environment? Is it variable? How does it work?
It's a valid point. So the idea of kind of the energy consumption used in processing and mining, so the mining side of things, which goes a bit over my head, is the idea that when there's a limited amount of a currency or a thing, you need a certain amount of processing power to work out exactly what the parameters of the existence of these tokens are. It isn't insignificant, but equally, what in isolation you can say, yes, that's an additional impact on the environment. But equally, if you look at the problems that blockchain and cryptocurrency can solve, it's like, well, actually, what if you took away traditional banking and traditional paper currency and coins and things like that? Like, what could it offset? And actually, it's comparable rather than just a new thing that needs to go. If you look at it in context, it's maybe not as severe as the headlines might make out, but equally, it's something to do your research on for sure.
Yeah.